Peas on Moss is brought to you by Kimberly Schaub, a culinary scientist turned business developer. Over the past 4 years, the audience has downloaded episodes over 40,000 times, and we have 1,500 impressions across the website and a host of social media platforms. Will you consider contributing to the show to help keep it on air? Donations through Patreon help to offset the cost of web hosting, editing, and producing the various Peas on Moss offerings, from podcast episodes to videos, and every little bit helps. From corporate advertisement to sponsored content and private contributions. Reach out to me on peasonmoss.com for details. Hey Peas on Moss listeners, welcome to a new episode of the Peas on Moss podcast. Today I'm sharing a clip from a special presentation given to the RCA Hustlers Under 40. Lauren Abda, the founder of Branch Food and co-founder of Branch Venture Group, was a guest speaker for one of our monthly get-togethers, and she joined us to share about entrepreneurship, industry disruption, and venture capital investment. Food Edge 2022 is taking place May 3rd through the 5th. It's a leading B2B summit with participants from around the world that's designed to spark conversation and catalyze strategic connections in the food and agriculture industries. The summit brings together the most prominent innovators, brands, and investors to discuss cutting-edge trends and technological innovations that are creating a sustainable future of food. Now in its 5th year, Food Edge will be held virtually and also includes in-person networking activities in Boston, hosted by the Boston Beer Company and Silicon Valley Bank, among others. Attend the summit to engage with key stakeholders and build your strategic partnerships across sectors and borders to accelerate your business goals. You can get tickets at Food Edge. Can you describe what an entrepreneurship mindset is, or what that fire in the gut is? Can we put words around it?
Yeah, it's a great question. What is the entrepreneur mindset? I think it's one that's consistently dissatisfied, actually. I think initially you start out feeling like something can be better, something can be done better. There's a better way to do this. There's something else that can, help achieve a better outcome. Or, in the case of food, we see a lot of new companies have greater, interest in sustainability or better health outcomes or environmental impact. And those entrepreneurs want to bring this product, technology, or service to the market to affect that change in the world and in the industry. And so I think that with that in mind, and by the way, I think that authenticity creates some of the best businesses that are out there today. I think with that in mind, that tends to be the mindset that really drives an entrepreneur and also keeps them engaged and interested long enough to see their business really develop into something successful and sustainable itself.
I have a quick question. Thank you, everybody, for being here this evening. I'm Jamie. So there's a lot of parallels between startups, incubators, that whole world, right? Entrepreneurship. So being in the industry of food product development, right? A lot of creativity gets thrown around. A lot of experience needs to happen. Selling, culinary, food science, marketing, I mean, you name it, right? And I feel like there's a million parallels. So do you know, are food product development people, like culinologists, people, the RCA members, people who you're speaking to now, is there a real big role or a larger role we could play in assisting organizations like yours, or vice versa, right? When we're trying to figure something out. Do you see that? Because I feel like there's such a simple connection, and I can't put my finger on what it would be.
Yeah, it's a great question. Thanks for asking it. And quite honestly, I think it's what's one of the things that's so interesting about food today is that so many of the brands that are really capturing a lot of consumer interest have a really strong food science foundation, right? Like there are certainly the product companies like RX Bar that's just got like 3 ingredients and they all bind together somehow and whatever. But then there's, Kite Hill that's created alternative dairy, and there's Impossible Burger, and there's Beyond Meat. And there are so many businesses now and brands that, wouldn't exist without really unique kind of food science innovation. And I think that as we, as investors, look at the space and look at categories where we're looking to invest, finding a business that has a strong food science foundation is one of two things that we're interested in. I would say the other thing is just, new brand and packaging related to the product coming to market. So I think for food product developers and people with food science backgrounds, like, now is your time. and it's, you could certainly work for a company, right, in that department and, contribute to a really interesting business like a Beyond or like an Impossible or like a Kite Hill. Or you could start a business of your own. And I think for any of those types of companies, like, they have really strong and management team level leadership that also have food science backgrounds too. So I think now more than ever, it's one of the best backgrounds and degrees to have if you want to start a company, because I think that there's just so much innovation on behalf of new brands that's going to be required if we seek to feed 10 billion people in 2050, which is just a few decades away. We can't do it with the food that we produce today. We could try if we were better at distribution, but even then, we can't produce, that many terrestrial animals to feed as many people as we would need to. And so we need to think about other ways of creating food and also providing people, the best nutrition that they could be taking in. And it's product developers and food scientists that are ultimately going to do that.
I have a quick follow-up question because that's super interesting. And to your point earlier about sometimes you have to tell them how to do this and how to do that. When these ideas or businesses come to you or you get introduced, if they really don't have a strong food product development or scientist or chef or whatever, but they've got a really great idea, how do you guys go about helping them solve that problem? Or are they too far along in the process where that usually isn't an issue?
I think, some of the best companies are always trying to refine their product for, consumer taste preferences. And, even major brands are constantly working on, fine tuning and improving and also sometimes evolving, the composition of their products to keep up with consumer trends. So, right, reducing sodium or reducing sugar or using alternatives. And so I don't think a company is ever beyond that. And we, at Branch Food and Branch Venture Group, spend a lot of our time asking entrepreneurs and companies how we can be helpful. We've certainly connected folks with, product developers in the past that work more independently and, are based locally or, in other places that do kind of independent consulting on this front. And so it's, an aspect of business development we've tried to support with. And, here in Boston, we're among many that do this type of work, whether it be at the university level, in the private sector, again, independent consultants that, want to work with businesses, but it's an incredibly important aspect. And we, have a robust and try to keep growing it, network of people that we can refer those businesses to. So for any of you that are doing consulting work on this front, shoot me your contact information so we know, and we'd be happy to send startups along.
I was on the e-board for the undergraduate food science club last year, and I know that a lot of students are really interested in entrepreneurship as an option. And unfortunately, Rutgers doesn't have a course in that. So do you have any advice for, food science students or any students, I guess, for that matter, who have that entrepreneurial spirit, but don't have, they might have the technical chops, but they don't quite have the business side of things. What kind of opportunities or resources would you recommend to them?
Yeah, it's a great question. We're actually seeing a lot of schools take, a significant amount of leadership in helping nurture entrepreneurship as a path for their students. And so I do wonder if there's an entrepreneurship center or an active alumni group around entrepreneurship that some of them can tap into while they're at the university, at the college. I think beyond that, entrepreneurship is like the career path of the day, or I should say of the generation. It seems, particularly of the generation just younger than us, and so I mean, I've seen a lot of different types of online programs or just free curriculum that students can take to understand just the fundamentals of how to bring a business to market, or launch a business related to legal considerations, starting up an LLC, product market fit, value proposition, identifying a target customer. All of those things are the same, at their core. And I think that there's actually a lot of free information now that people can access on the web. One of the things that I remember being super helpful early on when I was starting was General Assembly, which I think has continued to be a really good resource for people. They do some free, but also some paid for programming to help kind of nurture early stage ideas, or help people that don't necessarily want to be an entrepreneur, but have entrepreneurial an entrepreneurial spirit and want to work for their company, but just think outside the box and learn how to bring that type of thinking into their organization. So I would encourage them to check out GA, and yeah, just kind of general Googling around. There's some really interesting resources that are available out there for kids now.
I'll also add that a lot of business students, master's or undergrad, they have to do a business project, make up a company and do things with it and come up with an idea. So you could be the person to give them an idea.
Yeah, and partnership with they may be the technical person or the subject matter expert, but connecting with students in the business program or the engineering program, or in some of the other programs across the university. I think it tends to be in the business schools where we see just more of that curriculum. So if they could take classes there, or tag on to a startup team that's entering a competition at the school, or otherwise, it may take a little motivation trying to figure that out, but the resources are out there and available.
Thank you for joining Peas on Moss for this quick bite. We're offering shorter podcast episodes to get you the quick, pertinent information to carry on with your high-performance work and working from home. Special thanks to our Patreon sponsors who are helping me offset the podcast costs this year. If you've got some extra cash, I sure would love the support. Go to the website peasonmoss.com for details. I do also host monthly happy hour events for younger professionals in food product development, the Hustlers Under 40. Please visit the website to join the mailing list for the next event. And you can also check out past recordings on YouTube. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk again soon.